I do SMM marketing and communication.
No, that's the tool to use, but how do you make money?
That's how I make money.
No, that's a product.
I sell services. That's how I make money.
I was thinking that you're selling dreams for kids.
That's it.
See, it's very hard to come to the answer. How is Apple making money? They're selling belonging. They're selling the. How did ISIS make money? They're selling belonging. ISIS and Apple are no different. They're feeling it. They found a niche of people, I mean ISIS in that case, that are abused, that needed to be connected to something, and that's how they made money. They were sold on that. It's very hard to answer how do you make money. But once you, how does Microsoft make money? Do you know?
By being a monopoly, more or less.
How did they become a monopoly? By hooking you to licensed softwares and SLAs. So Microsoft is not a software company. Microsoft is a service level agreement company. They're selling SLAs. That's what Microsoft is selling. And these SLAs are, God help us, right? But the core business is what you make money on. And once you figure this one out, you do not touch it, you do not mess around with it, because that's what puts your bread and butter on the table. The big mistakes that so many companies and startups and small businesses do, I'm going to destroy, I'm going to change the way I make money. No, but how you make money is, don't touch it. That's what pays the salary in the end of the day. And every single company that try to disrupt how they are making money, this is where they are failing. So you need to identify that, and you need to perfect that. That's the first thing, Eric Schmidt did with Google. How do we make money? We do not disturb that. This is what pays the salary. If we touch that and we break that systems, we have to fire all of the employees. Google doesn't exist anymore. And it's the same thing with any business. On the other hand, you need to ask yourself, how do I entice and defend the way I make money? What is the layer I need to put around me that will enable me to compete better on the market? And that is where you start to innovate.
The example that the gentleman had of the household appliances, if we ask him how you earn your money, he can say, I make houses, homes. But he knows that his business is dying. The economy's changing. People are no longer going to the household stores. They're going online. So you have to abandon the earn. You have to adapt to something new.
He will need to keep the earn as much as possible to keep the heads above the ground, so he can figure out who should he become before he's becoming someone else, and use that to compete against everyone else.
So while he's selling household appliances, he needs to find a way to see how they'll be sold in the future, and then try it now.
I'm not sure selling in the future. I love the ideas of kitchen as a service. I mean, you're already sitting on amazing, resource infrastructure. It's the business model, and I'm not saying it's easy. I mean, if these things would have been so easy, every single person here would have been like running an Apple company. But it's a learning that you should take, and not everyone here are going to. Let's say we cross to the euro. Not everyone here is going to survive this change. You will maybe find yourself without a company, without any income, or you will find yourself flourishing. There is not guarantee for anything. What I'm trying to give is the thinking that, I mean, and you might, I cannot control if you decide I can beat them before they're becoming this, and that decision is wrong. Because, I mean, you didn't see the entire map. But if you touch the way you make money today, you're risking your family, you're risking yourself. So you need to find the time of finding the tools to compete. And the tools to compete are not by selling more home appliances. That's not a competition. It's not putting a lot of management power of doing the same of what you're doing now. It's finding a new business model. It's finding a new partnership.
Completely different, because basically every industry, every business have a life cycle. So some things just go out of fashion, and you can't really make them future-proof. Nobody today is 70% recorders. Right? So basically, you just accept the reality, and then you look for other avenues of development.
And that can be a very, I agree that every single society, every single structure has a certain life cycle. The purpose of, I mean, if you go back to Adam Smith and creative destruction, right? You need to creatively destruct your own business in a smart way in order to survive the changes. This is the idea of FORMA, to create an adaptability and resilience into the organization that enable you to change with time. I mean, what was Nokia? Nokia, what was the first thing that Nokia manufactures? Do you know? Before phones. They made tires. They made tires. And they saw the business and it's phone. Geely, it's the third largest automotive company in the world. Do you know what they started with? Selling fridges. It's this adaptability that enables you to constantly reinvent, because the business itself might not be there, but the people should be there and promoting new businesses. And this is why the compete is one of the important tools that you have. And once you achieve this competition, it's, okay, I actually have a new product. And it's always drilling down. So you have a competitive advantage. It's drilled down. Now it's becoming part of the way you make money. And now you need to go back to the circle again. Which brings to the second part of these equations, that nothing happens with a series of experimentations. When you launch a new product today, you are spending so much time on thinking that everyone is going to love this product and everyone is going to buy this product. And it was a German engineer that told me many years ago, we Germans, you know, we love to sit and develop a product for 20 years because we think it's going to last for 20 years. I mean, do you know how many times Shane and Tamu is actually releasing new fashion items? You want to guess? 20 times a day. 20 times a day. And it was Zara that created like the 56 season structure. Things happening on a massive, rapid scale right now. Old tradition. Let's go back to how Elon Musk put Tesla on the road. So the old tradition, automotive thinking was like, it takes 7 years to develop a product. And when you release the product after 7 years, it actually has a 7 years old technology inside of it. That's the reality. That's when you're stepping into a new Mercedes today, the screens are like 5 to 7 years old. And it can be any car, right? But so they're taking this 20 years with R&D in dungeons, and after the 20 years, they are taking the product, putting it in another building that is called marketing headquarters, and all of the people from marketing look at it and say, oh, it's shiny, it has rims. They have never been part of the development process. And they're thinking, let's give a very simple message that everyone around the world are actually going to like it. And that's how the old fashion of automotive is working. And then comes Elon Musk and says, screw that, it doesn't work like that. Did you know in the beginning that Tesla was available only for one street in San Francisco? One street. He sent his engineers to that street and he told them, listen, we have a new concept. We want to co-create that concept with you. What's your friction points? What's your challenges? And they co-design the experience for the Tesla on that street. And then they says, okay, let's try it on that street. And let's create a feedback loop with that street. And suddenly they had 2 streets that people can drive Tesla. And then they had a neighborhood, and then another neighborhood, and then the city. And after the city, only people that live in San Francisco could actually buy a Tesla. And then it says, okay, people in LA, in that neighborhood, can buy a Tesla. And people were standing in line because they were hearing about the engagement, about the experience that was created there. And it was this series of micro-experimentations that created the brand that is called Tesla today. Goes back to how much management power you are putting, rather than creating a series of micro-experimentations that help you to define, shape, and inspire your audiences. Next time you are in a Hills of Business meeting, in the speed date, instead of just giving your business card, also tell the person in front of you, because they are humans, they are potential clients, I have this idea and get the feedback loop to see what this is the community. That's why the network exists, to create these micro experimentations that enable you to understand how your product can actually look like. And that's how you create this model. You have to think yourself on a constant state of becoming. Did you know that Gmail was in beta for 20 years? I actually think some parts of Gmail are still in beta in the settings. You can still find it in beta. Don't be afraid of being in beta and experiment, because in the end of the day, only for experimentation you can grow, you can have direct feedback loop. It's very easy to pay a marketing company to take people to put them in a nice room of hotel, air conditioned when it's 40 degrees outside, give them an orange juice and says, what do you think about orange juice? We fucking love it. Oh, good, we have the results. But in the end of the day, it was too sweet, no one will like it. And this series of experimentation is such an important tool. And you're all part of Hill of Business, and you have all of the ability to create that. I mean, actually, let's go here. Right? It's a process. It's a mind. You will get this slide. So this is what you want in the end of the day. You want to have knowledge as a business, right? Yes, the purpose of a business to make money, but one of the assets you need to have to get money is knowledge, how to make that money. And in order to get that knowledge, you need to go through the left side of these equations. You need to figure out where you are, where are you going? Why am I going there? What are the resources that I need to go there? That's the top. You need to create a series of experimentations and demos or beta products. And the green part, that's the most important things that enable you to do that. That's the community. And the advantage of doing it in Plovdiv is massive versus Sofia. Because Plovdiv is like a small village. You can experiment here. You can go to any coffee house and says, I have this idea for a new speaking pictures. Do you mind to put it on the wall and see how customers react to that? Try to do it in Sofia. I think it's a bit harder, because in capital city, these things are a bit harder. But you can create these series of experimentations to go out with. You can go to any, I can think at least 3 small restaurants that you can put all of your products that people can buy. Let the restaurants use them, but put a QR code on them and give a tactical offer of 15% of anyone that wants these products. It can be plates, it can be table, it can whatever. And you get a free marketing, that you intercept with people on their way. Because the best marketing is when you intercept people on their way. How many of you have seen iPhone commercials? Apple usually doesn't make up to iPhone commercials, right? But you all have seen it, you all heard it. You've seen when someone is pulling an iPhone, it's intercepting, it's taking your attention. And you can do that in places like Plovdiv through this community, which is giving you the launchpad. And the launchpad is exactly this. It's a direct feedback loop. How did people react? How did people engage with this experience? It's not marketing, it's engagement, which gives you the knowledge to actually create a monetization structure. To create this, when you're putting a product in the market, it's already validated because you already have users that are using it. And it's not happening overnight. I mean, it doesn't. None of these things happen overnight, but the infrastructure, especially in Plovdiv, exists. And in a sense, that's why personally I love about Plovdiv, because you can experiment. And I'm very okay from every 10 people that I meet and I test my idea, 9 of them says it's shitty, we don't want to do it. It's that person that says, I want to do it. That's what's important. And that's how this structure works. Everyone is thinking about incubators is something that happened outside of us, but we are the incubators. We are the one that we can test the ideas on top of everything. We have access to the community that we can experiment with. I mean, that's the only way to get to, that's the last slide, by the way. That's the only way to actually get to 2030, still running your business and start thinking, okay, how is, because I mean, you don't rest in 2030, and then you put like 2035 in front of you. But there isn't any other way of building an economic infrastructure except of doing it that way. And yes, I know mañana and Podiv, and I like also, but I think the city has a huge potential in front of it. And it's up to every business in this room or individual to actually contribute to that. So now we'll let you guys ask questions because I don't want to talk anymore. I don't know even what's the time. 9, oh, that was good. So
you talked about Starbucks and how it creates habits. How do you do that for a B2B business? Or like, what is the? I'm not really sure. Like, how do you do that? Because it's very easy to do that. Not very, but it's easier to do it for a B2C business.
I think first we need to remember that in the B2B, you're still meeting humans, people behind it. So I never liked the B2B because it's putting like a system versus a system, but it's still the purchasing department, which are humans that are actually buying the product. But if you're looking at the model of staplers in the US or DHL or FedEx, they have a great model that is working, and they have a lot of artifacts that you can use to actually understand what are the habits that created it. And what I would do in this case is I will figure out the businesses that business that I want to work with. How is their business-to-business ecosystem look like? Why do they choose to work with DHL and not FedEx? Why are they taking their computers from Apple and not Microsoft? I will try to figure out this, and I will extract that business Maslow hierarchy of needs, more or less, and I will base my communication based on these tools, and then you're just becoming part of their ecosystem. This is just an analytic exercise, to be honest. I think this is easier to create B2B habits than to create business to consumers, because consumers are changing all the times, and you have so many. But businesses are more rigid. Once you fit into their policy, you are part of their policy. And I mean, it's just to do an analysis and figure out why do they act with certain actors, and fit your communication and structure to that, and to get yourself through the door in the first time, and then you're part of their habits. I mean,
but also in B2B, it's most about relationship building.
People,
yeah. I mean, at least from my experience, because for 10 years I've been doing B2B. The big money in B2B is only relationship based. They don't care about habits, about origin story. Basically, it's whether they know you, who knows you, also they can vouch for you, and whether they can trust you. It's only based on their human perception.
I get with that, but there is still, when I'm talking about creation stories, and I'm talking about icons, and I'm talking about reputation, there are a lot of examples of B2B businesses that collapse because of some kind of scandal that happened in one of their business, and some story went out. Harvey Weinstein Studios, it's a great example of an industry that collapsed. So it's still important, but like I said, it is the people. But to get yourself through the door, you need to fit into the model of how this relationship actually happening.
It's a lot easier if somebody can get you inside by extending their credit.
I understand what you're saying when you're looking into Bulgaria, but when you're looking into the US and Canada.
No, actually, my experiences from the US, if you want to do big business in the US, especially in the finance industry, it's only personal relationship.
from for a Bulgarian company to have?
Everybody works.
Because then you need to be there, right?
Yeah, if they don't know you personally, then it's not going to be.
Then yeah, I will go with networking as well. For me, most of my interests for businesses is really neither someone saw me doing a keynote and asked me, can we do something? Or I identified the problem with this business through a research that I've done, and then I literally did an analytic, find how to write the message, and got in touch. Sometimes it didn't work, but the majority of time I got in through the door and presented what I needed to present. It's really the touch that you have and you do, and obviously you need to meet people in the end of the day.
Why would you want to create habits in businesses? Yeah.
I was just thinking about it because I do a lot of content. I don't really like talking to people, like clients, but I do daily, like 5-6 calls a day, but I just don't like it. And I prefer to create content and for people to find me instead. And right now I create content around creators rather than clients, or more on the creator side. So I was just wondering, it's interesting and I've never really thought about it. And so that's why I was asking.
I mean, again, it's without having a deep dive into what exactly that you do. It was a very vague description that you gave now.
Yeah.
I was very much relating to not liking to talk to people. I can relate to that. But it's, I mean, the idea that when you work with certain big companies, you need to send a package. It's always DHL is number one. That's the habit of the organization. And it is a habit. And the habit will be when you look in specific industries, any new campaign that is coming, it's that agency that is doing that. It's not like they're the best, but it became a habit just to approach them. Why? Because we know the people, we engage with the people before, we understand. So there are very much a lot of habits between business to business. I think we are in a hotel, which is one of the best examples of business habits, where most businesses are doing conferences, they immediately go to hotel. Here we are, right? Here's a business. We went into a hotel. And Marriott is one of these companies that always attracts businesses. They became the number one choice. And then it was Hilton for the higher echelon of businesses. So habits are a very important tools to actually create recurring revenues once you capture the habits.
I guess that's what I meant, because it's like habits for business. Sometimes I don't necessarily think our competitors are doing better than us. It's just, it's a habit. And also in our business, you have to find clients every month. So it's very hard to put them on a retainer because of the specific thing that you do. So that's why I'm going with that direction.
I mean, in the creative world, I will actually ride on the tools. People think creative. First thing that comes to mind from a tool is Apple. But Apple is a hardware, where the majority of creative are actually using DaVinci Resolve. So it's actually black magic that you need to work with, not Apple in this case. So what are the habits, and then you can ride on that. So it's this reciprocal relationship between the people in the business to the business itself to the tools that define this industry.
I think that if you want to get a business addicted to you, you have to get them to have more habits with you. That means you need to get them addicted to you. And to get them addicted to you, you must sell or offer services that complement each other, and they need you because let's say they use one service from you. If you keep adding and complementing to what their needs are and what they need, you can keep making yourself indispensable to them, and then they'll get addicted to you and you'll have more habits with you and you'll be more dependable.
It's the ecosystem thinking. Fully agree with that. It's absolutely the ecosystem. But you cannot develop always the ecosystem by yourself. This is the partnerships. And you need to give them a turnkey solutions that is driven from the ecosystem. And as long as everyone is wearing the same hat, no one cares about the legal entities under it. But I fully agree that it's the ecosystem mentality that drive these things.
But also choosing a vendor is a hassle. It's super stressful, basically. So as long as you could make it that it's less risky to go with you, that's why probably everybody goes to DHL. Because choosing a vendor in your personal life or in your business, it involves a lot of brain power, and the easier you make the decision for them, the less risky it is, the better. And so, because building this ecosystem is hard, it's super hard. But as long as you could make you seem like a less risky option, this will also increase your chances, increase your reputation doing stuff like this.
Of course.
Yeah, it's just.
I mean, this is again going to the modular approach. You need to offer them the modular perspective, so they understand that if one model fails, the offer is still remaining. The experience is still part of it. I think that it's very hard to build an ecosystem, but it's the only models that actually works today, especially with businesses. They are hooked into ecosystems. You cannot deny that. It's most businesses are preferring to work with ecosystems today. And that's why everyone is locked into Microsoft or locked into Google or locked into Apple or locked into different, from a business point of view. I mean, even Starbucks, by the way, has offering they have a B2B department. Because, and I mean, works only with Starbucks. And you can go and says, I don't want Starbucks, but there isn't any other coffee because works with Starbucks. Because they removed so many frictions for WeWork of giving them a turnkey solution inside their facility. Whatever left of WeWork, I should have said. But yes, they're trying to reboot. Any more questions?